It is finally here. Texas, Alabama, the game of the year to this point, at least one of the most high-pressure games of the entire college football season is about to get rolling. Also, by the way, you got Nebraska, Colorado. That one has a little bit more juice than we thought it might going into the year. This is a phenomenal slate we have ahead of us in week 2, and we're so glad to have you here. This is the Hard Count, the People's College Football Show. Everything that you know and love about fall Saturday afternoons that has to do with this sport happens here, happens every single day, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern. We're live in living color as we are right now. What's it going to take to win that game? How does Alabama keep Texas from getting it done in Tuscaloosa? How does Texas go in there and slay the dragon and prove that everything Steve Sarkisian has built from this point is all worth it? Everything he's done since he's got to Texas has led up to a game like this to make a statement to the rest of the country. Hey, I'm the guy to bring Texas back. Quinn Ewers is the quarterback to bring Texas back. And I'm not saying if they win that game, Texas is back, but you would have to imagine the good faith it would provide for the people in Austin, Texas. I don't think you can overstate that. Also, some headlines. We went to Twitter and asked y'all, what are going to be the headlines when the dust settles on week 2? We got a lot of great answers from y'all. I called it Twitter. Some of y'all may now know it as X. You definitely don't know it as Threads, but that's neither here nor there. What's it going to take for Nebraska, Colorado to get a win in that game? What's it going to take for Coach Prime to keep the jet fuel pouring onto his program? What's it going to take for Nebraska and Matt Rule to kind of right the ship? Heartbreaker against Minnesota. I mean, they should have won that game. Woulda, shoulda, coulda is kind of the most frustrating language to use right now in Lincoln, Nebraska, but nonetheless, probably should have won that game against Minnesota. How do you end up victorious in that game if you're either side? We'll break that one down. The transfer portal now, I'm not sure if y'all saw this past weekend, but there were a lot of teams that were portal heavy this past offseason that had a lot of success in week 1. Then you had a team in Clemson that is pretty much known for not using the portal for the most part, outside of like 1 or 2 guys in their history. And they fell to Duke. What's the nature of the transfer portal right now? Is the transfer portal a requirement in modern college football to be successful? We will discuss. And then at the end of this thing, going to give you our final thoughts, kind of our last take, if you will. Some of them are calling our shots, just things to watch as a whole throughout some of the big games this weekend. And I can't wait to get into it, man. Again, if you're new here, welcome. It's college football. It's only college football. There's a lot of other shows out there. We say this a lot. I love all of those shows. Love all of them. Everyone that adds to the college football landscape in the media world, I love what they do. With that being said, what we do, I think, is specific to college football and only college football. Nothing else added into this show, just ball, no agenda, no additives, no high fructose corn syrup. We say that a lot around here. We're glad to have you here. Before we get into what I want to talk about with week 2 as a whole, I want to just say thank you for 2 things. First, thank you for being tuned in right now. We've had tremendous traffic over the last week or so with the season getting rolling, so that's a testament to y'all. We appreciate that. Second thing I want to say thank you for, it was around 2 years ago where I was sitting in my office job, 8 to 5 structure, listening to a college football podcast a lot like this. And it was a myriad of different shows, but that was what I did. And if you told me I was going to Alabama, Texas in 2 years, I would have said, great, I'll walk over broken glass to get to that game. Fortunately, we're going this weekend to go see the game of week 2, and it's a testament to y'all, and it's a testament to y'all continuing to improve what we got going here. So thank you for that. Thank you for being a part of this program. No more time to be wasted. Thursday, September 7th, 2023, the last one in history. Let's make it a great one. So, like I said, a lot to jump into, but what do we want to see when it comes to week 2 of the college football season? What are some things that we're a little bit curious to watch? Some things that maybe we just want to see in general. There's a fair list of them right here, but the first one is Ohio State, man. Let's hang 50 on Youngstown State. No disrespect to Youngstown State. Got a lot of love for them, but when I look at Ohio State, you scored 23 points against Indiana. 23 points. You don't take a Ferrari just 20 miles an hour in the carpool lane or take it down some side streets and just kind of cruise. No, you open that sucker up, you go 90 miles an hour, pedal to the metal, and you fly. I want to see Ohio State do that because what I saw against Indiana, I understand. Road game, conference game, new quarterback. I'm not saying that that's, a thing you need to just totally mail in the season for, obviously, that you had a bad showing against Indiana. I want to see Ohio State open it up, play 7-on-7, and I want them to reassure everyone and remind everyone what this Ohio State team has under the hood, because newsflash, they have a lot of big-time skill pieces. The defense, I think, will take care of business. I'm not worried about the defense, but when it comes to this offense, I want to see them rev the engine a little bit. I'm not panicking from Indiana. I'm just saying my eyes would like to see that. Is that too much to ask for? 50 points, Ohio State. Let's get it done. I don't know if y'all know, but we got the Cyhawk this weekend. I shouldn't say I don't know if y'all know. Y'all already know if you're watching this show because you're a college football junkie. But we got Iowa State, we got Iowa, and there's been a lot of negative publicity around this game, around people betting on the under, and a lot around Brian Ferentz and his job and scoring 25 points a game. Like, y'all, let's see some points in this game. The over is 36.5. The over-under is 36.5, I should say. How awesome would it be if this game was 31-28? I don't care which side ends up getting it done. Want to see a lot of points, see some offense, see an exciting product on the field. Last year, this final score was 10-7. Iowa State got it done. And I understand that there is a brand of football that is beloved in Iowa, and they love the fact that we're playing with a fullback and we're going ground and pound, and it is leather helmet, strap it up, power I formation kind of football. I love that as well. But with everything surrounding this game and all the negative publicity and all the negative press, let's get some good things on tape now. Let's see some touchdowns, man. I want to see Cade McNamara back there just dealing the pill like a shady pharmacist. How awesome would that be? Especially for what Cade McNamara has been through, having to transfer from Michigan, where he won a Big Ten title, by the way. So I'd love to see some points in this game. Would love to see just a good product offensively on the field. That's what I want to see when it comes to that game in week 2. Now for USC, a lot of talk about how they haven't played anybody. Well, they get a little bit better resistance this coming Saturday. It'll be a late kick, 10:30 Eastern. They got Stanford. And Stanford, they got a new head coach. Troy Taylor was previously the head coach at Sacramento State. He's now running the show at Stanford. And I'm not going to go out and say that Stanford's somehow going to be like a tremendous test for USC. But Troy Taylor's football team's at Sac State, at the FCS level at least, ran for right around 240 yards a game. Last year, USC in this game at Stanford took care of business. They allowed right around 200 yards rushing against Stanford. Stanford, historically a really physical football team. They are a team that's going to, at the very least, give it an effort to run the football. I want to see the USC defensive line flex up a little bit here. Because how much do we talk about right here on this show, into this camera, and tell you Bear Alexander's going to be a dude? We had him on this very show. He told us he's a game wrecker. Okay, Anthony Lucas, we know what he was out of high school. Jack Sullivan played a lot of football coming from Purdue. Like, those guys had so much buzz around them. I want to see them just make a statement against Stanford. And a statement against Stanford is, a statement to a degree, I understand. It's not like you're going out there and just stonewalling Notre Dame or stonewalling another good football team that has a better roster than Stanford does. I'm just saying, do what you're supposed to do against a team that you should take care of business against. I want to see them held to less than 100 yards rushing. That, to me, would give me a lot of confidence for USC. I'm not overreacting. I'm not saying you give USC a national championship because they hold Stanford to less than 100 yards rushing, but I think there's something to be said for trends, and that would be a great place to set the trend going forward for USC this season. Last thing I want to see when it comes to week 2 of the college football season, how much do we talk about Phil Longo's new offense he's bringing to Wisconsin, how they'll be a little bit more balanced, going to throw the football a little bit more? Last week, Tanner Mordecai threw for 189 yards on 31 attempts against Buffalo. Now, they took care of business against Buffalo. I'm not saying they should switch it up too much, but they go to Washington State this week. I want to see them open it up, man. Like 31 attempts for 189 yards, that is just dinkandunk.com right there. That is just check down central. Tanner Mordecai, he came to Wisconsin to get the arm loose a little bit here. Go wing it around the yard. Go play 7-on-7 against Washington State. You're going to be on the road in Pullman, Washington. Let's bring out the big guns here. And I'm all for kind of keeping the system under wraps in the first game and kind of not wanting to show too much. But like, hey, Coach Longo, let's flex that muscle, baby. If we're going to need to throw the football later in the year, I don't want us to show up that game against Ohio State and say, okay, now let's pull it out. Now let's find a way to start throwing the ball around the yard. Like, let's set a baseline for this here. Let's do it against Washington State. Would love to see Tanner Mordecai be north of 300 yards passing. Is that too much to ask? Maybe. I would love to see them open it up. So a lot to look at for week 2, a lot that we just selfishly would like to see when it comes to the college football landscape. But regardless, you already know we're going to enjoy every single minute of this fall Saturday, as we always do. I'm sure y'all will too. Appreciate everybody tuned in live right now. If you don't mind subscribing to the channel and also liking this video, get us over 100 likes. We would greatly appreciate that as we keep on rolling along here. Now, if you were a part of this show in this last week, then you know that we love Prize Picks, man. Prize Picks, daily fantasy, and it is a safe, easy, efficient way to make some money on the sport that you love. We keep it college football here, so that's how we get down when it comes to Prize Picks. If you go ahead and redeem code JD, 100% deposit match up to $100. I'm just telling you, feels like theft. I promise you it's not 100% legal. Now, we got a nice little flex play baked in here that we're excited for this college football Saturday. We're so close last week on a flex play. Went 1 for 3 in terms of our projections coming to fruition. Got a good feeling about this one. Now, to give you a quick overview, a flex play means we do not have to hit every single projection to make our money. A power play, got to hit all of them. We got a flex play here with 5 different projections. A lot of them having to do with the big games, Nebraska, Colorado, and Alabama, Texas. So we have Jeff Sims going for less than his projection on pass yards and rushing yards. 183.5 pass yards, 64.5 rush yards. I love Nebraska. I love Coach Satterfield. I don't think he's going to do more than those projections. I just think the offense last week, only time they scored was on a broken trick play. Need a little bit more good faith than that. I'm not saying Colorado's defense is going to be world beaters, but I think those numbers are a little bit rich for yours truly. Now, going to the Alabama game. Also some plays we like a part of this flex play. I like the more on Jalen Milroe's pass yards and rush yards. Pass yards is 210. Rush yards is 52.5. I like those. I like those a lot. I think Texas is going to challenge them in the box at some point in time and make Jalen Milroe throw the football. And when that happens, Isaiah Bond, downfield. Malik Benson, downfield. Dial it up a little bit here. And I saw him hit the deep ball a couple times last week. It was Middle Tennessee, but I know that it's there. I think he's got more in the tank. I'm excited to see it. And then also those 52.5 rush yards, the way I think we get more than that, broken plays, couple design quarterback runs. He's the best athlete on the field. He's playing quarterback. And then the last play we like, a part of this 5 projection flex play, Travis Hunter, more than 73.5 receiving yards. For Nebraska, saw a lot of man coverage last week against Minnesota. Would expect them to change it up. But if you want to give Travis Hunter man coverage, he's going to do a lot more than 73 receiving yards. So go ahead and lock those in. Now, the beautiful part about a flex play, if we hit all 5 of these projections, 10x your money. Beautiful. If we go 4 for 5 on this flex play, double the money. 3 out of 5, we still make some money. So go ahead again, redeem code JD, 100% deposit match up to $100. Those are the plays we like. Shout out Prize Picks for bringing the hard count to us, to y'all today. Appreciate that. All right. Now, we got some big games this weekend. Some very, very big games this weekend. The biggest game of the week, potentially one of the biggest games of the season, Texas, Alabama, going to be a movie. Bryant-Denny Stadium, night game. Crowd will be ridiculous. Anybody and everybody is going to be there. It will be the zoo. What's it going to take to win that football game? Well, I'm glad you asked. For Texas, I think they win this football game if they can adapt to the style of the fight. And when I say that, I mean, obviously, if you're Texas, you want to dictate terms, right? You want to go out there, you want to sling the football around, you want to let Quinn Ewers cook, baby. You want to show them a little bit of that Texas barbecue. Shout out Terry Blacks. You want to show them a little bit of what you can do, what you did in the first quarter last year. Xavier Worthy, go deep, boss. Adonai Mitchell, welcome to the squad. Go catch a touchdown pass. Jordan Whittington, let's get after it in the slot here, because that was their matchup last year they took advantage of. But if Alabama says, you know what, we saw the tape, Nick Saban's our head coach, he don't like it when you torch his DBs like you did. Yeah, we're a little bit banged up. We'll see how we look in the secondary when it comes to game time. I don't think we'll get a ton of answers at this point in time out of Tuscaloosa with what that back end will look like. I think if Texas has a counterpunch there, if Alabama takes that away and Texas is able to run the football, that would be how you win the football game. Can you beat Texas, or can you beat Alabama, rather, if you're Texas, at their own game? That's what I'm watching. Can you pound the rock? Can you adapt your style? Make sure you subscribe to this channel. Make sure you like the video. Completely free. We're so glad to have you here. It's college football and only college football. Want you locked in for the duration of the season. Best way to do that, subscribing to the channel. So thank you for that. Now, defensively, Texas can win this football game. It's going to sound simple, but it's true. If they don't get bullied. And getting bullied does not mean that Texas holds Alabama to under 150 rush yards. It means, can Texas take enough punches in the jaw and still find a way to force a 3-and-out? And when I say 3-and-out, I don't mean three. Well, I guess that's not really a 3-and-out. Can they find a way to force Alabama to eventually punt the football is what I'm trying to get at here. Because Alabama, they're going to run the football. They're going to force the issue. That is who they are. Make no mistake about it. It's been very well broadcasted. There is no secret as to what the game plan is here for Alabama. They want to run the football at you. Can Texas say, all right, stand in there, take a punch or two, gets to 3rd and 4, 4th and 1, we're off the field. Like that kind of situation is what Texas has to do consistently. Because what you want to avoid if you're Texas is how Alabama would in the football game, and Alabama wins the football game by just living in 3rd and 3. That is what they want to do. They want to get success on 1st and 2nd down, get you to 3rd and 3. At that point, the entire playbook is open. You want to commit extra safeties to the box and try and stop the run? Well, if you do, guess what? Got some fast dudes on the outside now. You saw Middle Tennessee. They tried to stack the box too. Didn't work out well for them. Jalen Milroe was just dealing missiles for touchdown passes. You want to live that way? Okay, that's fine. Okay, well, you want to be honest with us in the box? That's fine. We'll turn around and hand the ball to Jason McClellan, get downhill quick, fast, in a hurry. Our linemen, they're freakish. They're monsters. They have bad intentions. They're going to make you submit. That is how they want to get down offensively, and it works best for them in 3rd and 3 because they can be multiple. So keep an eye on that. Defensively now for Alabama, it sounds simple as well, but if they force multiple turnovers, think about the impact that would have on this game. First and foremost, Alabama, they want to play a low margin for error style of football, meaning they're not going to make mistakes. They're going to let you make the mistakes. And so if Texas does that, one, you're on the road, and so you kind of risk the rattle effect, right? You risk maybe Quinn Ewers getting a little bit rattled or the rest of your offense getting rattled and being off balance, and you cannot have that be the case in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. In Bryant-Denny Stadium, with the atmosphere you're going to have, you better keep a cool hand, all right? Having some turnovers doesn't really cater to that. Now, if they do turn the football over, like I was saying, then you just get to rinse, repeat what the offense wanted to do the whole time, which is wear on you, lean on you. You can only have 500 pounds on your back for so long before you start to get shaky and the rest of your body gives out. That is what Alabama wants to be in this game. They want to be that 500-pound weight that maybe you don't feel it in the first quarter, maybe you're strong in the second quarter, but 3rd, 4th quarter, that anaconda starts to squeeze, shortness of breath kicks in there, and then it's just bad news as a whole. And giving Alabama more possessions keeps the defense on the field longer for Texas, and that's just not the way that you want to get down. So that would obviously favor Texas, or favor Alabama rather, and put Texas in a tough position there. So what does it mean? What does it mean if Texas wins this football game? That college football playoff buzz, man, starts to grow. Because you look at the rest of the schedule and you say, okay, Texas beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa. I understand now they got to get up for every game. That's a very big part of this. But just on paper, if you can beat Alabama and you're Texas, who are you nervous about on the rest of your schedule? Oklahoma? Oklahoma's got a good roster, but you took care of business last year against them. I understand Dylan Gabriel didn't play in that game, but you look at Alabama, you say Alabama's a tougher test than Oklahoma, right? I mean, for Texas, this would be an enormous hurdle, and the confidence would just grow. Now, if they lose, there's going to be a lot of talk for the entirety of the offseason about what they're going to be when they get to the SEC. Make no mistake about it. There's a lot of people that are ready to just start calling Texas soft, and they're not good enough on the line of scrimmage, and they couldn't beat Alabama, so how are they supposed to compete in the SEC if Alabama's not even the best team in the SEC the last couple of years? Well, I take that back. Alabama won the SEC, I guess, 2 years ago. You hear what I'm saying? How are you going to compete in the SEC if you can't hold a candle to Alabama? It's going to be that welcome to the SEC kind of vibe for a lot of people if Texas drops this game. Now, if Alabama were to win this game, would feel a lot like a reminder to the rest of the country who Alabama is and what they have. Because I myself have been very much so in the wait and see mode when it comes to our rankings for them week to week. A lot of these other polls have like some good faith baked in for Bama. That's fair, but they're 125th in returning production. They're not 125th in talent. I promise you that. They have just top 2 classes all over that campus, all over that locker room. Like they have tons of talent in Tuscaloosa. Winning this game with some guys that are unproven would kind of be like, oh yeah, oh yeah, that's right. He's the greatest of all time for a reason. Oh yeah, I remember signing day now and seeing that script A pretty high up in the rankings almost every single year. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. It would also be a lot of validation for the makeover that Nick Saban has caused this team to undergo. Bill O'Brien, Pete Golding, OC, DC, no longer there. You bring in Tommy Rees, you bring in Kevin Steele. You brought him in for a reason because you want to play a different style. A new philosophy at Alabama is underway, and we're going to get the best gauge for it so far in week 2 right here. You beat Texas, a team that has a chance to score a lot of points and is playing kind of that modern style of spread you out kind of football, the RPO system, kind of trendy to a degree, and you beat them playing old-fashioned, throwback Bama kind of football. How validating would that feel for what Nick Saban has allowed this team to do and how he's sort of remade this operation and gone back to his philosophy of we're going to make you quit kind of Alabama football? I think it'd be huge. But if Alabama loses this football game, you know there's going to be a lot of people start getting on the microphone, people that sit in chairs like this and have microphones like this that say, Saban's lost his touch, game's passed him by. Now, I don't believe that. I don't think you believe that either. I don't think people in Texas believe that. I don't think that people in Texas also should believe that they're not ready for the SEC if they lose this football game. But the overreaction will be enormous on either side of this. And the sentiment that people will yell and scream about for Alabama is, well, Saban doesn't have it anymore. Saban needs to go on and get on College Game Day or something because game's passed him by. Again, we don't think either of those things are true. I just want us to kind of safeguard against that overreaction as well as the overreaction that Texas somehow isn't ready for the SEC if they lose to Alabama. Now, we'll kind of use the eye test here and use our best judgment. We'll watch the ball and we'll kind of figure it out. But I just want us to kind of safeguard against some of those reactions because I think you're going to hear a lot of that regardless of the result. Either way, though, man, cannot wait for this game. Cannot wait. We've waited all offseason for week 2. I was asking y'all actually on my Twitter, on my X, I was asking y'all, hey, what's going to be the headlines at the end of week 1? And there were like 3 or 4 of y'all that were like, great, now it's Bama Texas week is what the headline after week 1 should be. And so, hey, it's hard to fault anybody for that because we've had this one circled for a minute and it is finally here. Can't wait. If you could subscribe to the YouTube channel, that'd be phenomenal. And also if you could like the video, we'll go well over 100 likes, and we would just appreciate that because we got a nice little streak going here of over 100 likes. Might need to move that bar up a little bit too for the 100 like deal. But regardless, we appreciate y'all being tuned in. I alluded to it a second ago, but it is very advantageous to be following me this time of year on Instagram and on X, formerly Twitter, now it's X, at JD Piquel, because I like to hear from y'all and like to involve y'all into this show as much as humanly possible. And a segment we've done here a couple of times, and we've done the last week now into the college football season, what's the headline going to be when the dust settles on week 2? Like, what are we going to be talking about once we wrap up that beautiful thing that is a fall Saturday and we start kind of picking up the pieces and looking at week 3? What's the week 2 headlines going to be? Well, Larry came in hot. Something tells me Larry is a Texas Longhorn fan because he came out of the chute hot here. And he said the headline's going to be who's Alabama's quarterback in week 3. So if this is the headline we're dealing with, the impact here is enormous. But from a gameplay standpoint, it probably means that Alabama lost the football game to Texas. So that's in itself enormous that Alabama would lose in Bryant-Denny Stadium, favored by a touchdown, to Quinn Ewers and Steve Sarkisian and their I shouldn't say air raid because they're not an air raid team, but it probably means they had some success throwing the football. But the headline of who's Alabama's quarterback in week 3 leads me to believe then that Alabama struggled offensively, and there was probably a fair amount of turnovers. I'm going to go ahead and say there was somewhere around 3 turnovers if we're having a debate about who Alabama's quarterback is going to be in week 3. I think there's also fair to assume a little bit that maybe if there's that many turnovers, and if we're having this conversation, that Alabama maybe switched quarterbacks midway through. Maybe Jalen Milroe started the football game, couldn't get it rolling, needed a spark. Tyler Buckner, you're in. Ty Simpson, you're in. Maybe that's a world we're living in. I shouldn't say that it's a lock that Alabama loses the football game if you're going to have a new quarterback, because we've seen quarterback controversy in Tuscaloosa before when they won the national championship. Even so, that's probably the way that I lean if we're having a discussion about Alabama and them making the quarterback switch already in week 3. Would be pretty wild. Now, another one of y'all said the headline is going to be Texas is not back. Now, I would be very careful when it comes to the Texas is back or not back headline, because if Texas wins the football game, there's going to be a segment of the Longhorn fan base, a segment of the college football public, mind you, that segment of the Longhorn fan base is pretty small that's going to be saying this, that Texas is back. And if they lose this football game, there's going to be a lot more people that are more freely saying Texas is not back, Texas is not this, Texas is not that. I think we need to be very careful to not define Texas and their trajectory based on one game on the road against the greatest of all time in Nick Saban. I understand that it is trendy and I think it's catchy and clicky and all that. Like, we get accused of being kind of cliquish sometimes on this show and having clickbait or whatever. Like, I promise you, the easiest thing to get clicks after this week will be to comment on Texas being back or not back. We're not going to do that. We're not defining Texas as back or not back because of what happened in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Now, you take a good litmus test, and if they were to get a win, it's a nice notch in the belt and a nice rung to climb on the ladder of where they are and where they're headed. But we had Bobby Burton from Inside Texas on this very show yesterday, and we asked him, hey, is Texas back if they win this game? And he's like, no. Texas has been dubbed as back before. Remember, they started the season with Notre Dame. And I forget who was on the call, but game went to overtime. Tyrone Swoops, 18-wheeler, gets in the end zone to win the football game for Texas. And whoever was calling the game made the statement, Texas is back. Texas was, in fact, not back at that point in time. Sam Ehlinger, they beat Georgia in the Sugar Bowl, gets on the mic, says, Longhorn Nation, we're back. Texas was not back at that point in time. Texas will be back when there is sustained success over time. And that's not me being down on Texas. That is me, I think, just trying to put a proper gauge on what Texas is right now. They're trending the right way. I believe Texas has everything in-house to be able to eventually get back. But to say they're back after one game or they're not back after one game, I think is not the way we should look at this. So that's our thoughts there. Hunter says, we leave week 2 with the headline that Notre Dame is for real. That'd be fun, man. That would be a fun headline. And if Notre Dame is dubbed as for real after week 2, again, we got to pump the brakes a little bit because it's NC State, and that would be a really good win. Be a good win against a Power 5 team on the road, sleepy noon kick. And if you're telling me that they're for real after that game, I'm going to go ahead and assume that they throttled NC State. Like, I'm going to go ahead and assume that Sam Hartman went for 4 touchdowns, 300 yards, and they probably won the game by 30-ish points if we're saying they're for real. Because for real now, it's a big statement. For real, we're saying a lot about Notre Dame and what they're going to be the rest of the way. I think what it would do, though, whether you want to say Notre Dame's for real or not after this game, and if those kind of things happen, it adds a whole lot of juice, probably messes with that line a little bit in Las Vegas, Nevada for the game against Ohio State. Like, that's the game where I think we can maybe take that headline a little bit more intensely of Notre Dame being for real. I'm not here to say they're not for real. I'm just saying so far they've played Navy and Tennessee State, and I've loved what I've seen. I think so far, if they look the way they've looked so far against NC State, I think you got to start talking about Marcus Freeman and what he was dealing with last year. Yeah, you're learning to be a head coach and all that, but the way that he went out and got Sam Hartman from the transfer portal, like, hey, Marcus Freeman's getting the hang of this coaching thing here. He's getting the hang of this head coach deal, and he's a defensive coordinator. Went out and got a quarterback. All right. That's all I would say. I say, all right, Marcus Freeman making a lot of noise. Looks like he got the hang of this thing pretty quickly. But again, I'm going to wait till week 4 before I put ahead the for real stamp on Notre Dame. Love Notre Dame. Love what I've seen so far, and would obviously be a nice little notch in the belt should they throttle a team like NC State. But again, we will wait and see. Corey DeMel tells us that Nebraska, the headline will be that they are better than we thought, or is TCU just bad? This is probably a tough exercise because it is so early before we get to, the meat of the season. Not to say this is the meat of the season. I'm just saying we're so early in the season where our data points are so few. But if Nebraska were to beat Colorado, there would be a lot made about Colorado, and there would be even more made about TCU and what they don't have, right? I want to make sure we get this out there. I don't think you can take anything away from what Colorado and Coach Prime did in Fort Worth, Texas last Saturday. Just from the sheer circumstances surrounding them. 86 new players on the road. A team that just played for a national title the year before is who you drew. And they won the football game. And they won in convincing fashion. I say convincing. I was convinced that Deion Sanders and Colorado were going to be a force the rest of the year based on that game. So I don't think you take anything away from them. But if Nebraska were to win that football game against Colorado, and we'll talk more about this here just in a little bit, I'd be very encouraged, not so much by the roster at Nebraska, because I think we kind of know what there is there based on how they've played the last couple of years and who they got through the transfer portal. I would be encouraged by Matt Rule being able to hit the refresh button for this team heading into an enormous spot. Because last week we all saw it. It was heartbreaking, man. It was heartbreaking. They could have easily beat Minnesota. And I don't say that lightly. They should have beat Minnesota. You turned the ball over 4 times. 4 times. Had the ball with the chance to go win the football game. Had another turnover. That breaks your heart. You feel snake bitten if you're a Nebraska fan. So if they take that, turn it around, go to Boulder, Colorado, and play a team with all the buzz, all the juice, all the hype, I think you talk a lot about how Matt Rule got this team ready to play. I don't question the roster. I question how they're going to be able to get back on track so quickly here. So I'm excited to watch that. The roster, I think, is good enough to make a bowl game. I don't question that. I question if they'll execute. And execution, I think, falls on preparation. Preparation falls on the coaching staff. So that'll be a lot of fun to watch. A lot of great headlines from y'all. Keep them coming. If you're not yet following me on the socials, I would encourage you to do that because that's a question we're going to have out there. I would imagine almost every week, even if we don't do a segment on it, I want to hear from y'all because this is the People's College Football Show, and we would not be the People's College Football Show if we did not involve the people into the show. Simple as that. So thank you in advance for locking in. Thank you in advance for being a part of this show and for tuning in. We appreciate y'all being with us here. So, like I was talking about a little bit there at the end of that segment, Nebraska at Colorado. I wanted to do the same exercise we did with Texas at Alabama. What's it going to take? What is it going to take for them to win that football game? And when I say them, I mean Nebraska or Colorado. What's it going to take? For Nebraska, I think they actually have a very key strength in this game. My question is, will they be able to utilize it? Offensively, they can win this game if they just make it ugly. If they make it a kind of game where it's low scoring and you're watching at home and saying, golly, Nebraska's had the football for all of the second quarter. Colorado's had 1 possession. What's going on here? And they're just taking their time, just matriculating the football down the field. It's Anthony Grant left. It's Gabe Ervin right. It's design quarterback run for Jeff Sims. That would be the way that you would want to get down. Nebraska can win this football game if it's like 2017. The score, not the year. If they get to Shedeur Sanders defensively, that is the key for them. That is how they win the football game. The subplot is you can't sit in man coverage, which puts you in a little bit of a bind because if you want to commit numbers, usually somebody has to be on an island somewhere. So be careful there. But if you can get to Shedeur Sanders, that would be a way to just throw this whole plot into a blender. Because Nebraska, I don't think defensively wants to make this a game where they just sit back and try to keep it all in front of them and all that. They want to be aggressive here. Empty the clip. You're on the road. You're a 3-point underdog. You got some good team speed. Let's get after him if I'm Nebraska. Let's go and get Shedeur Sanders because we can't let him sit back there and do what he does like TCU did and let him just throw for 400, 500 yards. That would be very, very concerning if I'm a Nebraska fan, if I see that kind of approach defensively. So let's be aggressive. Let's attack. And let's make this game sloppy, ugly, low scoring. That is how Nebraska wins this football game. Make sure you're subscribed. right here to the On3 YouTube channel, The Hard Count, live Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern. We want y'all a part of this. We're so glad to have you here because it's college football and nothing else. A lot of other shows that we love that are out there, we have no agenda. We have nothing besides the game that is played on Saturdays right here. That's all we're talking about. So thank you in advance for locking in and for being a part of this and being subscribed. Colorado, they win this football game, and it's all about swinging for the chin if you're Colorado. They can win this football game if they connect on some early punches. And I mean, we're watching this game at home, and it's Shedeur Sanders takes the snap, quick play action, Dylan Edwards across, safeties bite up. You say, oh, no, that's not good. Gus Johnson kind of starts speaking in a little bit more of a higher octave, and the volume gets turned up on his voice, and it's either Travis Hunter or it's Jimmy Horn. Downfield, Shedeur Sanders right in the breadbasket, strike up the band, Boulder's going crazy. Everybody that paid good money to have a ticket in that stadium is fired up. And oh, by the way, that's the first drive of the game for Colorado. And they get the ball back, and the same kind of deal. You hit Travis Hunter deep, touchdown. And just like that, we have 7 minutes to go in the first quarter, and Colorado's up 14-0. If that's the kind of game that becomes played, Nebraska cannot keep pace. I love Jeff Sims. I love Marcus Satterfield. They can't keep pace with that kind of approach. It's not built to turn on the afterburners and try and catch up to Colorado offensively. It's just that's not going to happen. So you can put this thing to bed early if you're Colorado. The line is -3 in favor of the Buffs. I'm telling you, they could cover that and then some if this game starts the way that it could. And I promise you, they will be aggressive early, especially if they get man coverage. We say it on here a lot. If they play man coverage on Travis Hunter or Jimmy Horn, game, set, match, game blouses. Like, that's going to be the way that this thing goes for Colorado. All right? Defensively, if they can force some turnovers like they did last week, you give your offense extra shots at the end zone. Just like we were saying a second ago, I think that favors Colorado 110%. Because what Nebraska can't afford to be feeling like in this game is doing the math in their head of, okay, well, if we get a possession here, then we can maybe onside kick it, and then we can find a way to answer. Okay, well, we're still about 2 possessions away. Like, if that's the math you're doing in your head, if you're Nebraska, we got issues. What I was just saying a second ago is the same deal offensively as it is defensively. If they can get extra bullets for Shedeur Sanders, they're going to be in really good shape. And Jeff Sims now, we can't have that 3-turnover kind of game. We can't have a 4-turnover game as an offense if we want to have a chance in this one. If it becomes that kind of situation where they turn the ball over 3 times, Colorado's going to cover, and they're going to cover with ease. So what does a win mean for either team? For Nebraska, a win would be kind of resetting the trajectory of 2023. Because if you're a Nebraska fan and you go through the schedule early and you go win-loss, 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 before the season even gets started, you probably had your team going either 1-1, maybe 2-0 if you're optimistic. I personally had them at 1-1. This was a game that you had down as a win. And you start looking down the rest of the schedule and you're like, okay, if we want to make a bowl game, a loss here would really mess up that whole destination for them. Because then it would be games against NIU you're hoping is a win, against Louisiana Tech you're hoping is a win, against Northwestern you're hoping is a win. That's 3. Purdue maybe, Iowa maybe. We still don't even know what they're going to be. That's 5. Are we stealing one against Wisconsin? Are we stealing one against Ohio State? Like, I don't know. I don't know about all that. I say Ohio State. I believe they actually play Michigan and not Ohio State. They avoid 2 of those big 3. I know that. But regardless, for Nebraska, you start counting the wins. It's not the way you want to live. Not the way you want to live. For Colorado, it's kind of funny. I think the entire public outside of the people in Boulder, Colorado, and the people that are in that building, this is house money for them. Now, they have higher expectations than what the world is setting upon them because Vegas said 3.5 wins. Now, to be clear, we did say over. We did not say over by very much. We had them at 4 wins. This looks like a football team is going to do more than that as we sit here in week 1, heading into week 2. It would just pour more jet fuel on the hype train that is Deion Sanders. It would just boost recruiting. It would boost momentum of the entire operation. Like what happened last week against TCU, it would further validate and solidify that Colorado's a team that you have to take seriously. That game September 30th, now they play USC. Start peeking at the calendar and say, that's going to be a good one. Give me the over, whatever it is in that game. The hype train starts to get even more juice. But a loss now, I'm telling you, there's a lot of people waiting to just say, I told you so. Told you it wasn't going to work. Told you that was just a flash in the pan. TCU must not be very good. They lost a lot on offense. Told you so. That's what they're waiting to say. Now, if they lose this game, to be clear, we will not say that. We think Colorado wins this football game. But there's a lot of naysayers that are just waiting to tell you that last week was a fluke and that it's not going to work at Colorado and that they should have enjoyed that moment because this is going to be where they are the rest of the year, is riding the L train, okay? But regardless, man, going to be a great game. Fox Big Noon. Anytime you got Joel Klatt and Gus Johnson on the call, you're set up for a good afternoon. But excited to watch that one. That's what it'll take for both teams to get a dub in Boulder. Man, a lot to break down here. Because this is a segment that isn't so specific to week 2, but I think it's specific to your team in general because the transfer portal is becoming more and more of a factor in college football. And I think week 1 gave us a pretty good litmus test for where things stand for your team when it comes to if, how, and the utilization of the portal as a whole. Because you saw Florida State, portal-heavy team, took double-digit guys out of the portal in consecutive years with Mike Norvell. Go and be really successful, take down a top 5 team in LSU. You saw Colorado flip the entire script, flip the entire roster, 86 new players. And this wasn't his second year. This is 86 new players with a new staff. You go and be a top 20 team in TCU on the road. So if you're sitting here saying, okay, well, if we're an operation that's got some money and we've got some brand power and we're still struggling to find a way to get it done in our conference, like, hey, do we have the wrong guy as the head coach? Do we have real issues with how we're evaluating our roster? Like, what do we make of all this? And I just want to be clear on this. The transfer portal, in my mind, we should view as a tool. And a tool isn't, or not using a tool isn't the problem. It's a solution to a problem. But I think a lot of it, too, does go back to success that you had previously already in-house. Like Georgia, they hardly use the portal. Why? Because they don't miss a lot on the recruiting trail. And when you can grow something in-house and you can recruit at the most elite level, well, what you have in your building is probably better than whatever else is in the transfer portal. So Clemson is going to be at the forefront of this discussion. We've been very open with how we feel about Clemson. It's not wrong for Dabo Swinney to not go to the portal. It's not wrong. That's not the problem that he's not using the portal. The problem is what he has on the roster. The problem is that there's enough misses from the recruiting trail. There's enough misses in terms of how they put this roster together to where the portal could fix that. And Mike Norvell walked into Florida State. Deion Sanders walked into Colorado and was like, hey, man, I don't have what I need. I see there's issues here. He takes the tool, utilizes the tool accordingly as the rules allow them to do, goes in, puts it together, had a great first week of the college football season like that. Mike Norvell, been building to this, had a great year last year, used a lot of the portal. Keon Coleman from the portal, Jordan Travis from the portal, Jaheim Bell from the portal, all guys that balled on Sunday night. And so for Dabo Swinney, going back to that conversation around Clemson, it's a little bit of a factor to where you don't blame him for not using the portal if you're recruiting well and it's working. The minute that there's a problem, though, the minute there's something wrong with the machine, well, it then falls on you as the owner of this operation, as the owner of this college football success. That's who you're responsible for it, right? You're responsible as the head coach. Well, at that point, you're also responsible to do everything in your power to equip your team to win football games. And the thing that gets thrown around a lot around Clemson, I kind of thought about this yesterday, is there's so much made about, well, we want to protect our culture. Our culture is rock solid, and going to the portal risks that. Here's my question. How rock solid is your culture if it can't add a new player to it and still be strong? If you can't risk adding a new individual to your team, and that's going to just cause the entire operation to crumble, if that's all it takes to mess up your culture, how strong is the culture really? I think a transfer portal actually just reveals what you have with your culture. Jordan Travis and company, he's been there for some time. He's a portal guy as well, but if I'm Florida State, I think that speaks volumes to their culture. They were able to add a Keon Coleman, add a Jaheim Bell, and have them be just seamless transitions. Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman, they didn't have a huge problem at quarterback, but they had a way to get better by getting Sam Hartman. They added him. Now look what they're doing so far. Again, they've only played a couple of teams that aren't up to their level of talent, but still, the portal, I think, is becoming more and more a requirement. And so for Dabo Swinney now, the issue becomes, yes, you could fix it from the recruiting trail. You could use one tool that is the high school recruiting and be able to eventually become more dynamic at that position. But at what cost? How long is that going to take? You recruit a couple of high school kids to come play receiver for you, and eventually they get up to speed to be really good college players. But what year is it at that point? 2025? Where has Clemson fallen on the ACC chart? And again, I'm not selling my Clemson stock. I still think they're going to be a team that has a chance to win 9-10 football games. But to just totally just dismiss a tool that's available to you while everybody else is using it to pass you, I think we really got to take a closer look here at how much we maybe should be using the portal. Again, it's very much so by your circumstance. USC is another great example. I mean, they just absolutely flipped that entire thing around when Lincoln Riley got there. They flipped it around again this past offseason, getting more talent on the defensive side. Like, the portal is a tool, and not using the tool isn't the problem. The problem is passing up on the opportunity to get better with that tool because you're stubborn, because of your culture. And I'm not pointing fingers at Dabo Swinney. I'm just saying in general, for any head coach in the college football landscape, if culture is the concern, that we can't add someone and still keep it intact, well, how strong is that culture really? So I'm excited to see what happens here the rest of the way. I think the transfer portal will become a lot like the high school recruiting level, where you just look every single year to see how you can improve your team, and you take some guys year in and year out. And I'm fascinated to see what Dabo Swinney does here, because now it's getting kind of loud over there. A lot of volume now around Clemson, South Carolina, and how they should or shouldn't do things. That's my 2 cents, though. The transfer portal is here to stay. It's a tool that you got to use, and it is very much so a part of modern college football. And man, when you got tools, man, you got to use them. There's no other way around it. If you got tools, you got guys that aren't getting it done, there's a guy in the portal that can help you get it done. As a head coach, where's your responsibility? Why are you getting paid? To win football games. That guy going to help you win football games? Yeah. Okay. Well, if he's not going to be a cancer to the locker room, you do your homework accordingly. You bring him in. Great. Let's go win some football games, baby. We're oversimplifying it a little bit, but I think that the sentiment holds true when it comes to the transfer portal. All right. Make sure you get in your questions here to the keeper of the queue, Nick Brake. About to break those down here in just a quick minute. Before we do that, though, I want to give y'all our final thoughts as we head into week 2. This is kind of an exercise I want to do to just kind of, as the hay is in the barn, we've made our predictions, we've given you our thoughts, our analysis. I want to just leave y'all with one more thought for these teams in some of these marquee games. And Texas A&M at Miami is a great way to start. A&M, I think you leave Coral Gables with a feeling of, okay. Was it perfect? No. But the offense is in the right place. The right guy is now driving the car, and the guy that hired that guy is letting him do it. I think we see Connor Wegman spin the rock, and I think you see a lot of that talent that you recruited finally start to blossom because of this new system that's in place. So I'm excited to watch that. I think this is the game where you really just have a feeling of, okay, all right, hallelujah. All right, let's go do what we can do now. For Miami, I think you leave this game and Tyler Van Dyke reminds everyone what he did in 2021. Tyler Van Dyke, man, there's been a lot of slander around his name. I would like to remind everybody that he was a top 5 quarterback in the country, according to a lot of NFL draft circles, heading out of 2021 and 2022. And then you switch the OC. He gets dinged up, doesn't have much help at receiver or the offensive line. And then we all kind of just sold our Tyler Van Dyke stock. And my question is, like, why? How come? He didn't just get worse at football from one year to the other. Like, I think Tyler Van Dyke is still a really good quarterback. I think Miami Hurricane fans still feel like he's a really big piece for them going forward. And they're happy to have him as their quarterback. And so they're like, hey, great. Everybody wants to talk about other quarterbacks and have him fly under the radar. That's fine. We're going to be in good shape with him as the quarterback. And I think this game with Shannon Dawson now calling the shots and the offensive line being improved, I think we see Tyler Van Dyke kind of return to that 2021 form. For Texas Tech and Oregon now, this is going to be a fun one. Oregon going to Texas Tech, going to Lubbock, Texas now. For Oregon, man, a lot of talk about them being a college football playoff team. I'm here for it. I'm here for Dan Lanning and Bo Nix doing what they do and getting to that top 4. But if they're going to do that, this is the kind of game that you have to win. Not just because you can't lose games and make the college football playoff. That's obvious. I'm talking about in this kind of spot where you go on the road, non-conference opponent, and they have a good offense. We'll talk more about Texas Tech here in a second. This is the kind of game that you have to lock it in, not let the external circumstances impact you, not let the Texas heat impact you, not let the crowd in Lubbock impact you. Dial it in, be the more mature football team, and win this game how you're supposed to win this game if you're Oregon and Dan Lanning. That's the next step for them, in my mind, to being a college football playoff team, is handling all of the extra noise in a non-conference game. It's not USC. It's not Washington. It's not one of those games where all the hype is around it. Like you got Texas, Bama this weekend kind of overshadowing this game. Lock it in. Do what you're supposed to do. Handle business in Lubbock. Now, Texas Tech, they're going to score points. They are going to score points. Zach Kittley, I've said this many times, he's going to be a head coach. It's a matter of time. They're going to dial it up. He's going to spread you out, make you cover the entirety of the field. And his quarterback, Tyler Shuck, was at one point in time at Oregon. They're going to let it rip now. They're going to take their shots. If you give them man-to-man coverage anywhere on the field, they have no issue taking a shot at you. And in a game like this, with the personal element, I think it plays for Tyler Shuck, and just the way that Oregon wasn't great defensively last year in the secondary. Curious to watch that battle early on. Again, I think they're going to score points. I think we're in for a track meet. No idea what the over is. Oh, goodness. We just short-circuited on air. Rock and roll. No idea what the over is, but I would take a strong look at it and think about going with it. All right, now Texas at Bama. We've talked about this game a lot. Got to get one more take in here. T'Vondre Sweat, defensive tackle for Texas, in my mind, is potentially the most important player in this game. 6'4", 362 pounds. He is the foundation of that defensive line, and if you want to stop the run, if you're Texas, it starts with him. If I'm T'Vondre Sweat, I say bring it on. Try and block me with 2 guys. Because if you block me with 2 guys, that means other cats on our defense get to have less attention and go make tackles. Jalen Ford, he's right behind me. You want to block me with 2? Well, you better worry about him flying in and making a tackle. So it starts with him. He's the anchor of the defensive line. He is the key piece for them defensively for success on Saturday night in Tuscaloosa. For Alabama now, I don't think we've seen Jalen Milroe's best just yet. I don't. And I have very much so taken part in the questioning of what he did last year against Texas A&M. The turnovers, the issues throwing the ball downfield. I can't help but feel the more we get into the Jalen Milroe era at Alabama, I don't think we've seen his best yet. Like that song, You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet. I think that's the same thing with Jalen Milroe because the offense last year, make no mistake about it, when he stepped in, it was not called for Jalen Milroe. That system was not built around number 4 playing quarterback. It was built around number 9, and for good reason, because Bryce Young was a freak for them last year, made up for a lot of things they didn't do well offensively. But now in this system under Tommy Rees, I have a feeling it's going to be catered more to his skill set, and I think we're going to see him explode. Now, what does that look like? I don't know. But I think from a physical standpoint, he's got a lot more in the tank than we're giving him credit for. I think we see the run game for him. He gets going in that department. The pass game kind of gets going for him. Like a good basketball player, if you're playing defense, that shot kind of starts falling a little bit easier. I think that's the world that Jalen Milroe is living in, and I think we see him have a really good game on Saturday night. Now for Colorado, welcome in Nebraska. I think there is nothing fluky about what Travis Hunter did last weekend, and I'll say it again. We've said it many times on this live show. I'll say it one more time. He will go for over 100 yards and multiple touchdowns if he gets man coverage at any point in time against Nebraska. Period. Mic drop. The end. That is how good he is. He's the best player on the field, whether he's playing offense or defense. If Nebraska wants to sit in man coverage like they did last week and go mano-a-mano, Travis Hunter beat us, he will, and he will put up very, very big numbers. So I want to make that clear. For Nebraska, they have a much better chance at winning this football game than a lot of people are acting like. Because the deal for Nebraska isn't can we match Colorado in scoring points, can we go, blow for blow with them? No. The deal with Nebraska is, can we play this game how we want to play it? I think they're the more physical football team. And I think if they get a chance to be the more physical football team, meaning that they find a way to get a couple stops against Colorado's offense, they could own this game. That scenario, we did not predict that scenario, but that scenario, I think, is in the realm of possibility for Nebraska when it comes to this game against Colorado. So lock it in, man. Week 2 is about to get rolling. I cannot wait for it. How beautiful is this that we are into our 3rd week of the college football season if you count week 0? We're almost a full month into this sport, man. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Fires me up, man. Fires me up. Appreciate everybody tuning in live right now. If you could like the video and subscribe to the channel, we'd appreciate that. About to get to some of y'all's questions here in just a minute. Before we do, though, I want to let y'all know something, that Game Time is bringing y'all the hard count today, okay? So I want to give you a quick scenario. It's Saturday morning. You and your boys are somewhere in the state of Alabama. Maybe it's Birmingham. Maybe it's not you and your boys. Maybe it's you and your family. You say, you know what? Tuscaloosa is not that far away. I wonder if we could get to the game. You say, man, we don't have tickets, though. I don't know if we can get into the game. I don't think we have tickets. Well, Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the big-time matchups, including Texas at Alabama. So they have elite deals with last-minute tickets, best price guarantee. Don't stress over getting into this game right now. You can wait till the day of. Like that picture I just painted for you. You can wait till the day of, Saturday morning, and still have a chance to purchase tickets. It's the best place for last-minute ticket deals. Forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Get exclusive flash deals on tickets on all the sports and entertainment events. The Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price if you find tickets in the same section and row for less. Game Time says, you know what? 110% credit of the difference to you. So, snag tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code HARDCOUNT for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code HARDCOUNT for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. Game Time coming through clutch for all of us on fall Saturdays, and we appreciate them for it. Now, we say it a lot. If you're new to the show, welcome. But the way that we get down on this show, we call ourselves the People's College Football Show, can't be that if you don't involve the people into the show. So, right now, going to go to the live chat and hear from y'all. And to break it all down, bringing in the heavy lifter, producer extraordinaire, Nick Brake. Nick, what's going on, baby? How we doing?
What's up, man? Hey, we got a super chat from Mowerman USA. Thank you very much. Was kind of talking about J.J. McCarthy's quantum leap in quarterback mechanics. Could have thrown for well over 300, maybe 400 if he wasn't pulled for all of the fourth quarter. And then also says, enjoy your work, J.D. Thank you. So what do you think about J.J. McCarthy in his first game here this season, J.J.?
Hey, we appreciate that, first of all. Second of all, I'm very much so in on J.J. McCarthy. Like, I think he's poised for a big year. He started strong and all that. For me, I need to see a little bit more of a resistance from the competition for him. But, I mean, regardless, he's looked good. It's never a bad thing when you wax ECU, even with your head coach not there. And no such thing as a bad win, but I still need to see it against some other competition. So there's nobody questioning can he. I think the question is will he, and will that offense elevate around him to score the points they need to win a national championship. So I think as a whole, though, we're in agreement. J.J. McCarthy looks really good. I love the way he moved up in the pocket and was throwing on the run. Like, thought he looked great. So we'll see what happens here in the future as they play some more meaningful football games against better opponents.
JJ, everything. JJ, I just called you JJ.
I
JD, everything today in the comments has been Nebraska this, Colorado that. Craig, a good friend.
There we go.
A frequent commenter from Nebraska comments, Colorado is praised after one game, even after giving out amount of yards they did. They have everything to lose, and Nebraska has a chance to shake it up all this week and all of the talk, and says the Huskers are hungry. JD, that's amazing because that's so different than what we were saying going into the Colorado game a week ago.
That is right on the money right there from Craig. That is exactly true. There's honestly so much pressure now on Colorado to keep what they did against TCU and validate that and show they are that team under Coach Prime and all that. Like the eyes of the country are now very much so on Colorado. There is nothing hotter in sports right now than Coach Prime in Colorado. So there's that. And nobody's talking about Nebraska. And I think, honestly, I'm glad you said this because I think Nebraska is a touch more dangerous in this spot because they're limping out of that game against Minnesota, because they had the heartbreaker and turned the ball over so many times. So I think Nebraska, and I really meant that when I said that, there is a path here for Nebraska to own this football game like Craig's talking about. Colorado could not stop the run last week against TCU. Now, to be fair, they still scored 45 points, and that was the difference. But if Nebraska's able to have that same kind of success they had against Minnesota running the football, and Colorado hasn't figured out stopping the run, it could be an interesting afternoon for us sitting at home, Nick. So I'm excited to watch this one, but that's a tremendous point by our friend Craig there. You're right. Very, very different tone we're using around Colorado as opposed to last week going into the TCU game.
Yeah, absolutely, JD. That's a good point. Next question from Lee. Says, JD, you haven't spoken much about the Utah game this week. Any chance Baylor pulls off the upset? Man, Baylor's reeling right now, JD.
Man, that's a great question. Baylor is reeling. Baylor will be without Blake Shapen, who is their starting quarterback in Waco. Interesting thing here, Nick, Utah is going to Waco. It's going to be hot. It's going to be a hot one for the boys in Utah. So we'll see how that thing shakes out. Don't think Baylor pulls off the upset, unfortunately, for the good people in Waco. Should be a fun atmosphere. Like those Waco games that are right around a noon Eastern kick are like somewhere north of 100 degrees. No idea what the temperature is supposed to be, but on the turf, like it's gonna be brutal. No idea if Cam Rising's playing or not either, or what the status is for him. But don't think that Baylor pulls off the upset. They're reeling a little bit here from that loss against Texas State. For Baylor, I would just love to see them have some oomph about them. You know what I mean? I'd love to see them kind of just get up off the map. You're playing a good Utah team, have a chance to make a statement. Like let's go in there and throw some haymakers if we're Baylor. So that'll be fun to watch. But I don't think that Baylor ends up pulling off the upset there, unfortunately, Nick.
Yeah. Well, Crimson Kings, thank you for the super chat. Says Bama's going to beat Texas 38-13. Not, in my opinion, I don't get paid to talk about college football. I don't think that's an unreasonable opinion.
That would be, so it's funny because I was going to say, man, I don't know about that, but then I started thinking more. I was like, man, if you had told me LSU Florida State was going to go 45-24, I would have been like, really? I don't know if we're aligned there. I will say this, I think that result is somewhere in the bag of possibilities, but I don't think it'll be like that. Yeah. I think Texas is going to have a little bit more firepower offensively. I think they kind of pick up on what they did last year. And the reason why I feel that too, Steve Sarkisian is such an offensive mastermind. I don't think that he walks into a game like this and they're just somehow overwhelmed from a game plan standpoint. And if they were to score 13 points, that would be the way that would go. So surely from a coaching standpoint, I think that Steve Sarkisian in Texas will score points. And I think it'll be back and forth, man. I think we're in for a classic. I really do.
Yeah, I think if you take one touchdown away from Bama, give it in that prediction, give it to Texas, 31-20. Maybe a little bit more reasonable.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very fair spot to put them at. Like they cover, they cover backdoor maybe at the end there. I don't think they'll cover personally. I think it'll be close. We gave our prediction out as 36-32. But that situation, Nick, would not surprise me at all.
36-32.
36-32. Yep.
That's
down to the last drive. I'm just saying,
Yeah. We'll see.
Just saying. Will you get 36-32 tatted on you if that's the final score?
If that, I mean, that's like almost scoregami. I've never heard 36-32.
It'd be in the neighborhood. It would be in the neighborhood.
That is near scoregami. We got time for two more questions.
Let's do it.
Okay. I've been getting a lot of these. Well, I guess I should say Rocky Top Tom really wanting to get this one asked. He's been asking it a few times, so I'll make sure I get it to him. JD, who has the greatest potential for total disaster? USC, defense is horrible. Clemson, everything is bad. Or LSU, terrible showing versus Florida State. Which three of those you think has a disaster season?
Man, I think Clemson is in a very interesting spot right now. The defense is really good, but the offense, man, they just had real issues. Heck, defense even missed some tackles and looked out of sorts at times against Duke. So I think when I look at the other two, though, I feel good about Brian Kelly. I feel good about Jaden Daniels and them being able to buoy LSU. Same thing with USC. Caleb Williams will single-handedly keep them in every football game, in my opinion, if he's healthy. I don't know if there's that factor of, okay, this guy's just going to take over the game if we're Clemson. Like, maybe someone on the defensive side is a game wrecker. And Will Shipley, we love Will Shipley over here, man. I just want them to get some help in the pass game. Think Cade Klubnik will figure it out. But if you're looking at potential for disaster, I'm looking right at Clemson and saying, all right, boys, hey, we're on the ropes here now. Let's figure it out. Let's figure it out, Dabo. Figure it out, Clemson, man. I would love to see that. We don't like to see anybody just flailing like that, how they did against Duke. I would love to see Clemson put it together, man, to be honest.
Okay, two-part question to end this.
I love it. You're doing great, by the way.
I appreciate it.
You're crushing it. People on podcasts miss out because they do not see the heavy lifter.
Well, I'm repping the red shirt Thursday.
It looks good.
Our buddy William Story's been trying to get it going in the office.
It looks good on you, man. I'm just saying. You got the cut.
Yeah. It's not gaining steam, but we have about 4 people out of 15 wearing the red shirt today.
Yeah,
but
it's not bad.
Shout out to him. So part 1 of the 2-parter, D-Man says, do you think that Nebraska fans will fill half, if not more, of Colorado Stadium as they've done in years prior? I don't think that's going to happen, JD.
I don't know. Half is a lot, dude.
Not anymore. I don't think that's going to happen now.
Yeah, half is a lot.
Yeah.
Also, the juice around Colorado right now, social media and YouTube is a great example. The interest with Coach Prime is just national. It's not just people that live in Colorado or around Boulder or went to Colorado care about what they're doing. People from Tampa Bay, Florida, all the way up to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, all the way up to, San Francisco, California. Everybody is at least interested or has an opinion on Coach Prime. And so for that reason, I think that it's probably more Colorado fans at Folsom Field this coming Saturday. But I do think they'll travel well. I mean, we know Nebraska, they'll show up, they'll show out, they'll get rowdy. And that's a great question, though, Nick. What do you think? You think less than half?
Oh, yeah. But here's the thing. In fan speak, half of the stadium is you see a few red jerseys in the first 3 rows.
That's a good way to say it.
That's how it goes. I mean, it's, it'll be half the stadium. I'll watch a game and I'll think, oh, man, we've got all the fans here or this team. And it's 10 out of, 50,000.
It's all in the camera angles. It's all in however, the good people at Fox Sports want to kind of craft this narrative around. And I'm not saying Fox is crafting narratives. I'm just saying they have the opportunity to, if they want to go ahead and show a few more red shirts, say, hey, it's kind of 50-50, 45-55 here today. I don't know. But that'll be fun to watch.
JD, I always want to make sure I get the super chat people in. So before I go, I can leave right after this, guys. Arturo, thanks for the super chat. Asked a question we kind of just talked about, but I want you to just do it a little bit more. It's it's an if or a war.
Yeah.
That's not a thing. Is Clemson done being an elite program, or is the ACC deeper than we thought?
That's a good one. That's a great one to end on. Nick, appreciate you, brother. I'm telling you, people on podcast, we love y'all. We're so glad you make time to tune in. But to not get to see the heavy lifter, I'm just telling you, you're cutting yourself a little bit short there on the whole experience. But regardless, Nick, appreciate you, man. We'll do it again Tuesday. Sound good?
Yep. See you then.
Beautiful. Again, Nick, heavy lifter break. Great question. Is Clemson done being an elite program, or is the ACC deeper than we thought? I think there's a couple of things that can be true about this. I think Clemson may be in for a somewhat down year by Clemson standards. I think that's true. Now, do they stay down going forward? I have a hard time believing that. I actually think that Dabo Swinney, and I don't know Dabo Swinney personally at all, but I think the noise around his team right now and the way they're going to reevaluate, I think he eventually goes to the transfer portal after the season. Now, to what degree, I don't know. I think they vet whoever they bring in extremely closely, and I think they do a lot of their homework to the nth degree, but I think at some point in time, he's like, okay, if this is the changes being made, I want to win football games. I want to see this paw at the top of the college football world. If this is what it takes, there's a way for us to do this, but still do it my way, if that makes sense. That's my prediction. No basis for that, just kind of my feel on it. But I think to the same token, though, the ACC, I don't know if they're deeper than we thought just yet. I think they're more dangerous than we thought. Just from sheer quarterback play alone, you look across this conference, Brennan Armstrong, I think he could beat you. Jordan Travis, we know what he is. We know what Riley Leonard was this past weekend. Tyler Van Dyke. There's a lot of quarterbacks across this conference that I think can give you trouble any Saturday that you show up. So I don't know if they're deeper so much as I think there's just more opportunity for pitfalls than maybe people want to assume there are. Regardless, though, still think it's Florida State at the top. I still think it's Clemson at the top as well. I think Clemson is going to be a force here in that conversation come to November. But the beautiful part about it, that is why they play the games on fall Saturdays. And they play the games, and fortunately, we get paid to do this job and to talk about it. And I pinch myself every day because of it. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of this program. Tell a friend. Bring them on here. Say, hey, we got to talk some college football here during the week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern. Want you to tune in with me to this show I watch on YouTube. If not, they can listen on podcast, Apple, and Spotify. The Hard Count with J.D. Pickell. Listen, y'all enjoy the heck out of this. We only get 12 regular season Saturdays. We only get so many. All right? For your football team, that is. I know there's a bye week baked in there, but you hear what I'm saying. Soak this in. Enjoy this. This is the best time of the year. This is phenomenal, and this is what we get fired up for, all right? I'm J.D. Pickell. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all. We're going to keep this party rolling. We will see y'all in Tuscaloosa next time.